All right. Once again, anatomy, guys. Remember, ana means apart. Tomi means to cut. So if I cut apart the body, I'm going to look at its structure and its shape. So if you cut apart the ear, you'll notice a couple things. Here's the eardrum. These are 3 tiny bones. This is something called the cochlea. It's shaped like this. It has these 3 little canals that have fluid in them. I don't know how these things work. I just know where they are, what they look like, how they're shaped. That is anatomy. So let's talk about how they work. How they function is going to be physiology. From the Greek word physio, which refers to the nature. Now, this is a neuron. This is the way it looks. That's its anatomy. Well, let's look at how it works. In the axon terminals, we have these tiny little vesicles called synaptic vesicles that inside of them have chemicals called neurotransmitters that release and diffuse across the gap called the synaptic cleft, bonds to matching receptor proteins on the surface of the postsynaptic cell, which then transmits an electrical signal. Now, that's pretty complex, but that's how they work. That is the physiology of the nervous system. We can see how a reflex arc works by looking at these sensory neurons that come up to the spinal cord, transmit their signal to the motor neurons that come back out, and then cause you to move your foot. That's physiology. We're going to look at organ systems, but before we talk about organ systems, look at how our body is organized. Cells of the same type make up tissues. Tissues working together to do the same job make up organs. A bunch of organs working together to do the same job make up organ systems. All of the 11 organ systems in the body working together to keep us alive, maintaining homeostasis, make up the organism. There are 4 types of tissues: muscular, nervous, epithelial, and connective. So when we have all 4 tissues working together, a bunch of tissues working together to, let's say, break down our food, we might have the organ of a stomach. If we have all these tissues working together to maybe exchange gases in our blood from the outside air, that organ might be the lung. So let's look at our 11 body systems in a very quick rundown system way. The integumentary system is the system that involves our largest organ of the body, which is the skin. But there's some other organs: hair and nails. These are the products of the skin. The functions of the integumentary system are to waterproof and protect. So it's the first outer line of defense that keeps things on the outside out and things on the inside in. We can also release some waste products through our sweat from our skin. Some urea, the same type of stuff that we find in our urine, can be out of our sweat. It allows us to interact with the outside world through sensory nerve receptors that can sense touch and pain and temperature. And also, this added protection allows us to protect ourselves from UV rays by producing skin pigments like melanin that darken our skin and absorb UV radiation so we don't microwave the DNA of our skin cells, causing cancer. So the integumentary system has lots of various functions. Give you guys another couple seconds to write that down and we'll go to the next one. I know it went fast. You guys can get it online. Skeletal system has bone, cartilage, right? Ligaments, which hold the bone together. So you have your ACL, MCL, right? PCL. Okay, they hold bones together. And then our joints are where you have 2 articulating bones meet, where you have movement. The functions of the skeletal system, right? Those are the organs. Bone. Joint's not really a thing. It's just where things meet. Cartilage and then ligaments. But their functions are to support the body, provide something for our muscles to attach to, our skeletal muscles. Not all muscles attach to bones. Those are the other 2 types of muscles, smooth muscle and heart muscle. Protection. A very important organ inside of there. Our skull protects it. Very important organs inside of here, heart and lungs. Our rib cage protects it. Our uterus, right, and reproductive organs are protected by the pelvic girdle. So our bones protect some vital organs of our body. A lot of people don't realize that inside of our bones we have bone marrow. And this is where we produce a lot of blood cells. Okay? Red blood cells, white blood cells. And then we also store a very important mineral, calcium, that is needed for the nervous system to contract and for muscles. Muscles to contract and nervous cells to fire and release neurotransmitters. Muscular system. We have about 600 plus skeletal muscles. But let's not forget the heart, which is cardiac muscle. And then inside of our digestive tract, right, and our stomach is going to be smooth muscle. So skeletal muscles allow us to move. They also shiver and warm us up, right? So they also produce heat, right? Heart muscle obviously pumps blood in a circle. And then we have stuff called smooth muscle that we'll find inside of hollow organs. Nervous system is made up of two main parts, the central nervous system, which is the brain and spinal cord, and then the peripheral nervous system, which is made up of our cranial and spinal nerves. So here's your brain and your spinal cord. That's your central nervous system. And then your peripheral nervous system are like your optic nerve and other cranial nerves that come out of the cranium, but also your spinal nerves that branch off. So those are your two parts of the nervous system. It allows us to respond to stimuli by sensing information in and sending information out. Operates on ions like sodium and potassium coming in and out of the cell to conduct electrical impulses. We refer to as action potentials. And the nervous system responds to this stimuli by activating either our muscles or our endocrine glands to produce hormones so that we can have a change in our body based on whatever the stimulus is. So our nervous system controls our body by communicating to certain parts of the body quickly. For instance, if there's a rock flying at my head, my eyes sense that information, and our peripheral nervous system, our nerves, can send information to the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord. They relay that information or process that information and then activate specific nerves, okay, that would cause some sort of response. And so the nervous system can do this very quickly. Endocrine system is going to be our hormones. Okay? And hormones are secreted. Well, let's do it like this. They are made up of glands that secrete hormones. So all the organs in the body, the pineal gland, which makes sleep hormone, melatonin, the pituitary gland, which produces many hormones, thyroid has a metabolic hormone, thyroxine, and the parathyroid hormones that produces parathyroid hormone. You have the thymus gland, you have pancreas that produces insulin and glucagon, regulates blood sugar, your adrenal glands that produce adrenaline, your reproductive glands like testes and ovaries that produce testosterone and estrogen. There's a lot of hormones. Well, what is a hormone? A hormone is produced by a secretory gland that's made up of secretory cells, and they secrete some sort of chemical. That's the hormone. Its main way to travel is through the blood. And then it reaches some sort of target cell that's supposed to be causing some sort of response. So what is a hormone? Something that's produced by a cell, travels via the blood, goes out of the blood, bonds to a specific receptor protein on the surface of a target cell that matches that hormone and then elicits some very specific response. This is a slow way that the body communicates. So those are what hormones are, released in the bloodstream. These hormones regulate things like growth, reproduction, and the metabolism of food. And they regulate by what we're going to learn about, what's called a negative feedback mechanism. And this word right here, homeostasis, we're going to be talking about throughout the entire unit. We want to keep things at a set point. If they go too high, we got to bring them down. If they go too low, we got to bring them up. We got to maintain that homeostasis. Everything we want at a balanced level. And when we can't do that, then we have pretty much disease. So a feedback loop is if our hormone levels are too low, right, then we got to churn on the production of the hormones, right? If they get too high, we got to churn it back off. So we're constantly getting this feedback loop where when things get too high, we turn it off. When things get too low, we turn them back on. The circulatory system, which kind of is cardiovascular and lymphatic, but the lymphatic system is also part of the immune system. But when we think of the circulatory system, we mainly think of this, cardiovascular. The cardio part, this word right here, refers to the heart. Cardio. The vascular part refers to the blood vessels, arteries, and veins and capillaries. Okay, that's the vascular part. Cardiovascular system is going to transport oxygen, nutrients, hormones, but also waste products. That's what the cardiovascular system does. It just transports things in a circle throughout the body. Now, the lymphatic system is also kind of a circulatory system in the sense that things circulate through it. Lymphatic systems are made up of our lymph nodes and our lymph vessels and the fluid inside of them that we call our lymph. And this is where a lot of our fluid in our blood gets processed for pathogens and disease. So that's why it's linked with the immune system. Respiratory system is where oxygen comes into our blood and we get rid of carbon dioxide. So we refer to this as a kind of exchange between gas. So everywhere where the air passes and gets to our blood, all those organs, right? The throat, the voice box, the windpipe branches off into two bronchi, and then the lungs, and they dead end eventually into these things called alveolar sacs. That's part of the respiratory system. Digestive system is where we break down and absorb nutrients from food. We can break it down mechanically, like in our teeth and in our stomach, where the stomach kind of, churns and the muscles move and pinch it up. Or we can break it down with enzymes that are produced by our liver and pancreas. The large intestine mainly sucks up back all the water that was in our food that we drank and water that's, in the food that we eat and puts it back into our body. If that doesn't happen, then we pretty much have diarrhea all the time. So we definitely want to reclaim the food that we drink and eat. Urinary system is different than the digestive system in the sense that the digestive system gets rid of food that we didn't get into our body to begin with. So feces or poop is stuff that's not a waste product from our body. It's food that we never got into our body. And so the urinary system is where the blood, right, here's the heart, the blood goes to the kidneys and gets filtered. And we take stuff out of the blood and drain it into these tubes called ureters, store it in the bladder, and then get rid of it through the urethra as urine. And urine contains nitrogen-based wastes like urea and uric acid that can also be released in sweat. So this is where we actually get rid of waste products that our cells produce. Okay, that's how it's different. Okay, now we can also get rid of things like excess water or hydrogen ions in order to maintain our pH levels. We can get rid of excess salt and things like that. Sorry, was that too fast? Yeah. My bad. That was a little quick. So think of this like an air filter in your house, right? And the air is like the blood, and the kidneys are like the filter. And a lot of things get taken out. Not everything gets taken out. A lot of things get put back into the blood that do get removed. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. If you got blanks, don't worry, guys. You'll be able to have plenty of time to fill this in. Reproductive system, right? We have testes, ovaries, uterus, and things like that. There are some things that do the exact same thing between both males and females, and other things that are totally different. Reproductive system also have organs that are part of the endocrine system in the sense that our ovaries and testes produce hormones, right, that help with the development. But there's only one function of the reproductive system. We need to make more of ourselves. So that's an easy one. The immune system protects us from pathogens, anything that generates disease. Patho referring to disease-causing agent. Could be a virus, right? Could be bacteria. Could be a fungus. Okay, so you can see like a white blood cell engulfing pathogens. We have 3 lines of defense. The first is like our skin, just our mucus, sweat. It's just trying to prevent things from getting into our body. Doesn't matter what it is. The second line of defense is, okay, it got into our body. Now we need to get rid of it. Doesn't matter what it is, though. So when you cut yourself and it's all red and swollen and irritable, that's the second line of defense. The third line of defense is, okay, we got infected by a virus or some sort of bug. Well, we're going to create antibodies and T cells that are very specifically designed for that one type of pathogen. And so the next time that we come into contact with it, right, we have a very specific defense. It's like a homing missile that only attacks and kills that one thing. This is like a vaccine, or just, like you get from your flu shot, or just once you get the chickenpox once, you're never going to get it again because your body has developed a specific defense to that virus. All of these 11 body systems that we just covered, the main point is to maintain homeostasis, where we want things to be relatively stable. For instance, blood sugar, we want to maintain at about 90 milligrams per 100 meters, or 100 milliliters. So if our blood sugar rises, our pancreas produces insulin, right, that causes our body to take blood sugar from the blood and store it into the body, which is going to drop our blood sugar back down. If our blood sugar goes down, we release glucagon, which releases blood from the body into the blood, bringing our blood sugar back up. This is examples of negative feedback loops that will maintain homeostasis.